Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Anyreach Roundtable, where we explore how AI is transforming the way we work. I'm your host, Richard Lin, CEO of Anyreach, and today's guest is Dan, CEO of Topo, a YC-backed AI SDR platform. Dan, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Richard. Hey everyone. Very
Awesome.
happy to be here.
Absolutely. So just for our audience, can you maybe share a little bit about your background and experience just so they can get to know you better?
Sure. So I'm Dan. I'm working on French, as you can hear with my accent. I'm working in the tech industry for about 10 years now, mostly on go-to-market positions. I did maybe all of them, like SDR, AE, sales manager, head of sales, and so on, through GTM strategy and opening new markets. My last experience before launching Topo was in a French company called Aircall, a cloud-based phone system. I've been leading sales teams there for a bit more than 3 years, from 10 to 100 million in ARR. Now they're doing 200 million ARR. That's where I met one of my co-founder, Rob. He was head of outbound and growth there. And we partner also with our third co-founder, Leo, to launch Topo, which is our business. We talked about that, but we are training AI agents specifically to execute sophisticated outbound campaign at scale. That's a company that we launched a year and a half ago. Had the chance to be accepted to YC, to live the experience, to pivot during the batch and so on. Maybe I will tell you a bit more about that. And now it's been a year and a half that we are running the company, and it's working pretty well for us.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit about that pivot. What did you initially go into YC? What was the original idea, and then what made you want to switch?
Yeah, so the original idea was at the very origin, it was an internal project that we had at Aircall, because we wanted to open a more mid-market and enterprise motion, which Aircall is historically much more focused on SMBs. And we had some struggle regarding to the way of managing complex deals. So we started to build what we call a digital sales room. So it's a shared space between the buyer and the seller to help to have more collaboration in a B2B sales cycle, like centralizing all the stakeholders, the next steps, and the content in one place. So we stayed in this on this product for a few months, iterating, selling, onboarding new customers, and so on. We had some challenges when it comes to adoption, to find PMF and so on. And when we moved to SF, with everything starting with the agentic era, it was exactly the meeting point between the expertise of Rob when it comes to outbound, and to Leo when it comes to AI. We saw a much more bigger opportunity than the previous product that we were working on. Plus, we were super convinced about the capabilities to launch 100 million ARR businesses on this previous idea. So we took the hard decision to just stop working on this and starting from scratch around January 24.
Got it. Well, yeah, that's quite a journey. I mean, as you think about kind of as you mentioned, the era of agentic AI, and everyone's talking about agentic, but what does that mean for you?
I'm really business oriented, and I would say the real shift between, I've been a SaaS seller, a software seller for a while, and the real difference between those two eras is pretty simple, is to say you are selling a software to help people execute a task or do their job in a better way. So basically, I've been selling productivity tool for all my career. So you help people be more productive in their job. So help people doing the task. Now, with agentic, you are just selling the task. You are just selling the execution of the task. So you are both replacing software cost and labor costs. That's how the paradigm changed, in my opinion.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, no, I mean, that's kind of what we see in the market too. It's really at the end of the day going from a tool-based solution, right? You're giving someone a hammer, kind of crude example,
Exactly.
to the outcome, right? It's like, well, you don't need a hammer. I'm just going to give you the house, right? That's already built. Um, and so as you kind of think about, we hear a lot about agentic AI and like go-to-market motions, especially around kind of SDR functions. What makes Topo stand out and what's different about how you guys are approaching it?
Yes. When we started to work on this topic, we just we zoom into this market. Of course, it's a hot topic, but because it's an obvious use case, um, people struggle a lot with creating pipeline. You have an agent here to execute a lot of daily tasks of a worker. So applying it to sales and especially lead gen and outreach was an obvious use case. But when we zoom into this category, we aren't super convinced about what we saw in the market for a few reasons. The first one is that all the solutions that we saw was pretty generic. That means no matter if you are selling a product, a service, no matter if you are selling to HR or to dev, you are having access to the same product, the same platform, agents, data sources, and so on. So that was the first pain point that we identified. The second one is that most of the people were focused on the demo effect. And the demo effect was how to contact people. Like, what is the message to contact people? How can I use ChatGPT to craft hyper-personalized outreach? And with such an ambitious vision to replace the job of an SDR, you need to do much more to bring ROI to your customer. So we really said, okay, that's not about it's too much about like the messaging rather than the targeting when people build into this category in the AI era. And then the third point is related to expectations management and maturity of the people. As it's super easy to measure the results, we are giving a solution which is maybe a Formula One to someone that doesn't even have the driving license. So you still need to have some humans in the loop to help people crafting their strategy, the targeting, and so on. So that's how we stand out. First of all, we are building a machine, an outbound engine, fully designed to be piloted by agents that will be custom for every company. Second thing, we are much more, we are super good at targeting and finding the right leads at the right moment with the right context, not only contact information, but really contextual information. And third one, we keep some humans in the loop, and their job is to stand with our customer to craft the strategy, to help them iterate, and to get the most out of the platform. So that's how Topo stand out.
Got it, got it. And I think we've seen this ourselves and across kind of the industry that human in the loop is so crucial, right? Like agentic AI, while it can give you the outcome of the task and relatively fully autonomous, you still want the human to kind of fill in the blanks for some of that creative strategic work. I spoke with another guy, his name was Trent, but he was a product marketer. And he was saying, yeah, there's a good portion of my job that I can automate, but the truth is, AI is not great at messaging and positioning in the market, and you still need a human to kind of, help guide that process or, refine it. So it's great that you've kind of mentioned human in the loop because I think that's going to be a hot topic moving forward, especially with around agentic AI. So,
Sure. And when it comes, sorry for just
no,
to
no,
conclude
please.
on this topic, but um, there is a lot of people in our space mentioning that you should fire humans, uh, and in my opinion, that's why the space had some bad press. Retention metrics are pretty low and so on. Yeah, because it's not the time to fire humans, but you can be more efficient. Yes, instead of having 10 SDRs, maybe you just need one or two, and having agents that doing 80% of the job for them, scraping data, building lists, qualified leads, enrich them, contact them, and so on, and pinpointing the maybe top 5% of them that are the hottest one. So it's all about expectation management. We are not there yet that we need to fire humans.
Yeah, I agree. And there was this really interesting Bloomberg article where they interviewed Sam Altman of OpenAI, and they were talking about like the 5 levels of AGI. Us, where we are right now is like level 3 agents. The level 4 and 5, you essentially have AI that's able to, work with the team and then eventually just build an entire organization and go execute on a goal. I think the market right now is expecting level 4 and 5, but really we're still level 3, right? Like, a lot of the tasks that can be completed will be done by agentic, but there's still that human oversight to eventually get to, the KPI of that business, right? And so as you kind of think about how agentic is evolving, especially in your space, what are you kind of seeing in terms of trends, both in technology and kind of like market adoption?
I would say specifically in our space, you have like really 2 different technology challenges. The first one is not so much related to agentic. It is really related to the job, and that's how, in my opinion, applied AI and vertical AI really stand out to capture the value of the business today. It's because it's pretty complex to just apply AI in a specific use case. So first of all, you need to build or to rebuild like tools and being the system of record specifically for your task to give the means to the agent work. That's how you said, like the hammer for the agent to do the job.
Yeah.
And then it's about like using LLMs when it matters the most, and training models to execute a task is definitely, starting with fine tuning specifically for like crafting messages for outbound was a good starting point. But I think now we are in a position when you can have like some custom agent for every customer. And that's what we are trying to build at Topo. The cons here is that it's not a plug-and-play solution. That means that we still need some efforts to have like this level of custom for every of our customer. But it's, in our opinion, it's a pragmatic vision to deliver the value at scale for our customer. But so we are both trying to improve the performance of our customer and having a smarter agent. So it's all about tool plus human, tooling cost, software cost, and labor cost. That's the same way we are building internally. Tooling cost will be like the engine, and labor costs are really the agents that we are building.
Got it. And one of the interesting, I know you guys are not fully focused on enterprise, but kind of moving toward there. One of the things that we've seen is a lot of the existing hammers, if you will, the tools that, the old era of SaaS, a lot of these enterprises actually are obviously very embedded into the existing tools of their workers, whether it's through politics, right, where, the decision maker that bought that tool is like, I don't want to let it go, to, they sign like a 5-year contract, so they're not going to leave it. On the flip side, obviously the workers are already fully trained on embedded, the workflows are kind of set up. As you kind of think about, I guess, the topic of like integrations and working well with other hammers in the space, how does Topo think about that, in relation to bringing agentic AI and playing nicely with, existing deployments?
That's a great question. And specifically, I don't want to be, I'm not like, I don't have a PhD in AI, so I don't want to do like too much depth analysis, but I would say I can have like some insights specifically for our job. And for us, the main thing is being deeply integrated with the single source of truth when it comes to business, which is the CRM. I think some other players in the agentic space are mentioning that maybe they will replace the CRM with a headless CRM managed by agents. I think we are still not there yet. And as you said, like level 4 or 5 of AGI will require an agent that is like a co-worker, definitely, working in the system and so on. And when it comes to sales, it started by like replicating the behavior of a real sales rep. That means deeply working in the CRM of the customers. Now, if I'm moving forward a bit in few years, I think agents will be everywhere in the companies. But in the meantime, it will be much more easier to build agent by yourself. We are already seeing like some impressive stuff, being able to, possible to build with tools like an item or even like OpenAI operators in the future. So I think you have three different options as a company. The first one is I want something being deeply custom and integrated with my stack and my internal tools. So I will play with like a workflow builders and agents builder to do it internally with maybe some limitation when it comes to scale. Second thing will be working with horizontal player, like a multi-agent player that are able to provide a sales agent, a support agent, a success agent, and so on. Then I think when you will play with both option 1 and 2 and you will see the limitation, you need to go into a much more premium option, which is like the vertical agent, specifically trained with the right data plus the right tool to do the job properly and being integrated deeply into your stack. And of course, like we are talking about like a software integration, but also into the environment, both third-party data plus third-party data. We can mention, of course, like the rise of MCP recently and so on. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Got it. Got it. Well, you brought up two interesting topics, MCPs and kind of CRMs. I think it's kind of interesting as I've been, working at deploying Anyreach into different customer environments. What I find odd is, I'll just use CRM as an example, like, the top three, like Salesforce or HubSpot or like Oracle, for instance. They're all trying to build some sort of app layer agentic AI, with I think Agentforce for Salesforce, and then like HubSpot has like a Copilot, which is pretty bad, to be honest. But I kind of thought, why don't these companies actually build an open protocol or like open source, some sort of infrastructure that makes it easy for agentic to actually embed into their existing kind of product? So rather than just trying to build an app, like, build an MCP, but for CRMs, for instance, right? Where any agentic AI company that's building for sales, marketing, service, and so forth can more easily embed, right, and integrate into those tools. None of them are doing that. I'm kind of surprised. I think that's where they would actually get a leg up, right, if they make it a lot easier to do so. And you mentioned kind of MCPs and kind of like these future technologies. Is there anything that you're seeing both from a core product perspective as you're building out for these new tech around AI that you're excited about? And then on the flip side, internally, whether you personally with your team, are you guys using any sort of AI tooling and so forth to like improve and be more productive?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, being a founder is in 2025.
Yeah.
You, if you are acting in the old way about like, okay, I have a need and I need to hire someone, you're in a bad position. Sure. And we did a hackathon a few weeks ago specifically to build and to implement AI into where we have like the most challenges. It could be for a customer relationship and customer support are obvious use case, but also some internal ops thing. I mean, I'm posting a lot of on LinkedIn. I try to train my own GPT, not to generate LinkedIn posts because I still want to write them because I think that's also a good exercise for me. But something that I did that is working well. We are using a tool, conversational intelligence tool called Circleback. It was also a YC company from our batch. And a simple integration from like extracting insights for every call in the company, and sending me some just ideas of posts from the field every week. Sounds super simple, but it could be the job of like a content marketer, Same thing for everything related to, okay, I want to gather context from our customer to train an agent specifically for them. It would be the job of an onboarding manager. Now we are building like a fleet of agents specifically trained for us. And of course, we are avoiding like hiring maybe 50% more people in the company. We are only 10 right now. And I think for the level of revenue that we are doing in 5 years from here, we should be maybe 30.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a couple of things to talk about, but yeah, the expectations for founders in this new era, like AI is like kind of a double-edged sword. You get all this productivity, but at the same time, the expectations are so high. You gotta have a super lean team, revenue per employee now is like a key metric. So there's a lot of pressure for sure. And you brought up some really interesting stuff around, using AI internally for both, helping set up your clients in terms of, their environment, their requirements, and even for your own kind of like go-to-market motion with LinkedIn. So super cool. And circle back, that's one company I need to check out because I'm trying to go through all my calls and I'm like, how do I really derive insights from all these meetings, right? Yeah, one of the things that we've been doing, I'll just kind of talk about the problem that we're trying to solve. There's a lot of research coming out on like AI innovation, right? And if I was going to ask you, can you guess how much research papers are published on AI on a daily basis? What do you think that number is?
I don't know, to be honest. Hundreds?
Yeah, it's in the hundreds. There's about 500 a day.
Okay.
Now, not all of it applies to what we're doing, but we essentially create an agent that looks at all these research papers on a daily basis, and then based on what we're interested in terms of like the technology and so forth, we have an agent that goes into Slack and just says, "Hey, here's the top 10 articles that might be interesting for the ML team to take a look at." That's one way we try to stay on top of kind of the new tech. On the flip side, from a business perspective, we're always trying to figure out, okay, what do we build? Like, how do we prioritize a roadmap? Where do we get this information from? So outside of like, obviously qualitative interviews with our customers, quantitative behavioral, analytics on the product, we actually create an agent that listens to our competitors. And I'll do a little bit about that. So on socials, on Discord, on Reddit, pretty much what they're saying in terms of, their build in public, as well as what their customers are giving feedback or complaining about. That gets organized into another kind of agent PM that will spec out every feature tied to kind of our high level epics and pillars, if you will. And then that gets thrown into Codex. So Codex is like, the agentic coding platform from OpenAI. And then it'll just code up stuff while we sleep, and then it'll send it, as a GitHub, push. And then the engineering team reviews it and says, "Oh, does this look good? Let's go deploy it." So we're still building up components of that to get it like, more accurate and scalable. But, I think eventually, companies are going to get wind of like, well, how do we actually leapfrog our competitors? Well, why don't we get agentic to actually go build product while we sleep? So that was kind of that could be a whole another company in business, but we'll talk about that at some other point. And so, as you kind of look at the trends of AI and so forth, what do you think everybody in your space is getting wrong?
Um,
That's a YC question, by the way, I think.
yeah, yeah. Um, but I would say people, if I get it back to the few options about agents that I mentioned before, I think our competitor in our players, other players in our space, are doing wrong choices when it comes to the next steps. They are moving to other jobs, like I want to move to marketing agent, I want to move to a success agent, and so on. And I think with such a complex job and such like result-oriented topic that it sells, you need to go so deep to reach the level of a top 1% SDR. I think nobody in the market is able to match like the top 1% SDR in the market. We are not still there. And so that's my opinion, like moving to more horizontal play, that's like a strong mistake than people are doing. You need to stay super focused, not only in terms of product and positioning in the business funnel, but also in terms of market segment. More people are trying to reach like enterprise from day one, but they're also signing SMBs and mid-market in the meantime and so on. You cannot be good for everyone. So I think focus is something that like OYC insisting a lot. Of course, like Franceschi said, like you need to build. You don't need to build something people want anymore. For if 1,000 people want what you said, that's good. But if 10 people love what you are building, that's even better. Focus is a really underestimated quality, and I think the age of AI, that's something that we miss a lot.
Right, right. I mean, I think there's been a couple talking points. I think I don't know if it was Ben Horowitz or Mark Andreessen that said, if you don't build a 10x in your space, right, folks will not switch from their alternative, right? And the only way to do that is to really, as you mentioned, focus and not kind of stretch yourself too thin and really focus on the customers. YC says, better to have 10 happy customers than 1,000 that are like meh, right? And so as you kind of think about where the space is going, what do you think are some big changes that are going to happen, both in the market and technology in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so as we said, like related to the expectation of people for AGI scale, um, people maybe overestimated the impact of AI in the past 2 years. Like yeah, it will like replace my job and it will be the end of the world and blah blah. But we are all underestimated like the impact of AI in 10 years. So I think it will be a big shift when it comes to the the venture-backed ecosystem. It's changing a lot. People in companies need maybe less money than before, less cash than before to grow. We used to oppose like profitability and velocity of growth. Now you can do both in the meantime. And I think like companies doing 100 million ARR will be much more common than before. Now, technologically, I would say I'm not like I think that's why I'm talking much more on the engine and on the system of record and on the tool that you build rather than the LLM. And also we are focusing ourselves into collecting the right data because like if you are using the same models than your competitors, you don't have like such an edge. Like I mean, people can win this race with like every time there is an incremental innovation every 2 months to a new model. So I think as we are living in a new era and like it's much more controversial than before because as we said, as you are selling the task and the outcome, when you are assessing a software, you are not having the same level of execution that your expectation than when you are assessing a human for this trial period. So yeah, it will be definitely a new paradigm. I don't have like such a vision when it comes to change technologically. I would say again, the barrier of entry and this defensibility of AI companies in the coming years will slow down. That's why, in my opinion, the only way to survive and to build something really big is to stay super vertical and focused.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a good point. The evolution of how AI is going to impact The expectations, both from the AI native companies, right? Like what you can actually achieve. You can do both profitability and growth versus before it was like growth at all costs and then, oh, we burned too much now, so switch to profitability. But yeah, I mean, I think one of my thoughts there is that in order for AI to get full market adoption and awareness, I actually think outside of the B2B side, the B2C side actually needs to mature
Sure.
because even if you're working with enterprise, there's still people at the end of it, right? On the other side, the stakeholders. And there hasn't been too many consumer-ish or prosumer type apps that are AI native. We've kind of seen the first batch, if you will, with like Cursor, right? So when it comes to like programming and like using AI native tooling, we've kind of seen that start to get mainstream, but we need to unlock a lot more so people can start realizing, oh, I didn't realize, AI capabilities are here. How could that actually impact my business? Fingers crossed, both of us will be one of them. But yeah, no, I mean, I think, as we've kind of shared about kind of AI SDR work, and obviously what you guys are doing at Topo, is there any exciting things coming out on the roadmap in the next, I guess you can say short or long term?
I would say short of thing because like I would keep secrets for
Sure.
some secrets if my competitors are listening. Um, but I would say it's again and again we try to reproduce the behavior of the best companies and the best reps in the world, and we are trying to reproduce the machine that like some companies are spending 2-3 millions every month to have
Mm,
internally. I mean, monitor your total addressable market continuously with the right signals that are custom, super specific to your company, having the right approach, having the right channel, depending on your stakeholder and so on. That's a lot of things that we will launch in the coming months.
mm,
But again, I will not being too specific for keeping some
yeah.
secrets.
Got it. Got it. Well, awesome. Dan, I really appreciate you being on Anyreach Roundtable. I'm sure our audience will really appreciate kind of your insights into the space. If folks want to find you, where can they find you, Topo, on the internet?
Yeah, we are. So you can check out of our website, so topo.io. And we are also pretty active on LinkedIn. So you can follow me, try to post every day or every 2 days
Mm,
to keep you posted both on my take when it comes to building as an AI funder, but also specifically tips for sales and outbound. So yeah, follow me on LinkedIn.
all right. Awesome. Well, thanks again for being on the podcast and
Sure, you can
appreciate
follow
it again.
me.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, Richard.